were doing theater, street theater, and we had a lot of very talented people. The analogy is really with the movie business. I was trained in the movie business, and you call it direct action, I call it putting on a show.
Genocide! How long are you going to let your presidents get away with murder?
You're the one who's interfering with speech right now.
I don't get the GMAC or whatever AIDS pimp operation is.
Plague! We are in the middle of a f***ing plague, and you behave like this. Plague! 40 million infected people is a f***ing plague, and nobody acts as it is, as if it is.
Why can't you call a plague a plague? Every time you say the words AIDS epidemic, you are lying. You must learn to say the words AIDS plague, plague of AIDS, plague, plague, plague.
We have to start being powerful or we are going to die. It is up to us right now.
The years of anger of ACT UP were incredible. We all loved each other to death.
Fight back! Fight AIDS! ACT UP! Fight back!
Many Catholics were angered by this demonstration at St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York to criticize the church's opposition to homosexuality and condoms.
Everybody was terrified because the papers had been so cruel to us. And I got up and I said, "Are you crazy? This is the best thing that ever happened to us. We're no longer limp-wristed."
The answer could come tomorrow. Why do you automatically take such a negative attitude? You're not going to get it. Let me finish. Tony, all of that is bureaucratic bullshit, and you ought to be ashamed of yourself. There are 1,000 things that can be done to make all of this happen faster, and you know it. And that's the part of you that makes me so angry. Well, Tony, more than anyone in this world, knows how awful everything is, knows what has to be done, and yet he can never say it in public like I can say it in public.
I think it's unfair to the president to say that he's just sort of sitting back and taking it business as usual. And I think deep down you know that.
Tony, I'm going to say something. When you talk like that, I hate you.
I know, Larry.
When he didn't think things were going right, he'd rage out the face of the federal government. So if he wanted to lash out at the federal government, who would he lash out to? And it was me. He really got my attention when he wrote an article in the San Francisco Examiner that was this big bold letters, an open letter to Anthony Fauci, an incompetent idiot. I mean, that got everybody's attention, particularly mine.
It's almost as if we're light years ahead of you.
But Tony, to his credit, let us in.
So that started a process that over years matured into having activists at our planning meeting, having activists at our clinical trials.
We rewrote the rules by which AIDS drugs were approved. It was no longer enough to critique the federal government. We had to come up with the very particulars of plans.
Harlem forward. Donald King! Go for it. I still love you, Kevin! You'll always be with me, David.
We're here today because we're going to take the ashes of some of our friends and drop them on the steps of the White House because we're not going to take it any longer.
The deaths of so many people.
Activists bring a very special insight into the disease that they can actually be helpful in the way that we design our scientific approaches. We must join together, for together we are a formidable force with a common goal.
But I know that if ACT UP hadn't come along and kicked his ass, we would be light years behind where we are now.
Larry crystallized the rage that so many people were coming to feel about the absolute lack of response by the government to this crisis that was devastating one community after another.
Another president and yet another health secretary who do not care about AIDS. Why are we kissing this president's ass?
I think that there is no sense of urgency in Washington for this issue.
Why? Because this disease is happening to faggots, niggers, spics, junkies.
He was unafraid of being unpopular. He was brave. He was tenacious, extremely complicated, and a great writer.
You can only find room to call yourself normal.
You make me sound like I'm the enemy.
I'm beginning to think that you and your straight world are our enemy. I'm furious with you. And with myself, and with every goddamn doctor who ever told me I'm sick and interfered with my loving a man. I'm trying to understand why nobody wants to hear that we're dying.
It is a story of one person who said no. Not happening. No. And then someone else said no, standing next to him, and then someone else joined in and said no. And that's how you start a movement. And that's how you change the world.
Oh, my brothers and sisters, embrace the danger of life. We are here. We are alive. We are together. We are united. The future we have waited so long to live is here on this very day. But now, harder than ever, we must act up, fight back, fight AIDS.
On July the 3rd, 1981, there was this scary article in the New York Times, now famous.
And then came Larry's 1,112 and counting. In this essay, Larry grabbed a hold of the community and shook it and said, if we don't stop pretty much everything we're doing right now, gay people will be wiped off the face of the earth, and that we have to stop having sex until we figure this thing out.
Daily attention that the media paid to Legionnaire's disease, to toxic shock, to the Tylenol scare, and this epidemic, which is the worst epidemic to hit America since polio, is not on the daily front pages of every newspaper.
If this were happening to you and the white, straight, middle-class community, it would have been attended to a long time ago. The gay community has had to organize to take care of its own people. I'm a member of an organization of 200 volunteers, doctors, social workers, who are taking care of patients, doing things that the city should be doing, that the Red Cross should be doing. The Cancer Society will not give us 29 cents. Mayor Koch will not give us, has not yet given us 29 cents. We have to do it ourselves. We're fighting to get funding.
To come to Chicago to talk to Mayor Koch?
It's just a wrong. We pay our taxes just like everybody else, and we have entitlements just like everybody else. I still think that there are 3 people responsible for the AIDS plague. One of them is Ed Koch, the other is Abe Rosenthal, who ran the New York Times, and the third is obviously Ronald Reagan. When you have a health emergency, you tell the world and you do something about it.
We were fearless in what we would do. We didn't care if we were arrested. We didn't care if you didn't like what we did. Tough shit. We were dying, and you only had to go to a meeting on Monday night to be overwhelmed with that sense of people who were sick, people who were dying.
And somebody stood up and said, I've always had this idea. I thought it would be great to name a group ACT UP.
You can get it too! 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 Release the drug!
We were united in anger because the occasion of ACT UP was such a fiery speech that Larry gave that led to an angry demonstration out in Wall Street.
This is just the beginning. This is just the beginning.
We cannot wait 10 years for drugs to be processed through the FDA. AIDS patients don't have enough time to live.
Release those drugs! Release those drugs!
How do we
we get the FDA, which is a terrible, terrible bureaucracy. It's labyrinthine. It's almost out of a Russian novel.
It's time to march on City Hall. It's time to march on City Hall. It's time to march on City Hall.
I'm here because people with AIDS live in the streets in New York City, and that's the policy of this administration. It's not a mistake. It's the way Koch has it set up. And we're here to say if they're going to live in the streets, we're going to block the streets too.
We who are proud of being gay are sick to death of being made victims by those who are ashamed of being gay.
I deserve a little respect for what I have done. The same thing I said to you in 1981 when there were 41 cases. Until we get our acts together, all of us, and until we learn to plug in with each other and fight and make this president listen, we are as good as dead.